Hi, welcome back to my Auntie Creations. I'm Claire, and today we are doing the Sunday My Way by RLR Creations. This is an updated version. Rachel has rewritten her pattern. It is also a free pattern. It is a drop-in lining, but it's a great way of practicing doing your drop-in lining for bags, but you can also change it up. So it comes with a pocket on the front and then a zipper pocket inside, but as the pattern says, you can do anything. So these are the four that I've made. So this is quilting cotton and a thicker, like thicker cotton canvas sort of thing. I don't quite know what it's actually called. This one is 100% cotton, both inside and out. I haven't added the pocket inside that one. This one I've done in fabric that I've OD coated. I've put the pocket on the front, and I've lined this with PUL, so it's like a waterproof toilet bag. This one I have done with the OD coat and fleece, and as you can see, there's so many options. You can add extra pockets, you can add all sorts. Let's move it that way a little bit. There we go. And then this is the one that I've made in the video, and I forgot to add the fleece to it, but that's fine with me because I quite like the fact that the bag can be scrunched up. This is made with exactly the same OD coat and PUL, and as you can see, the fleece gives it quite a lot of body. So it's entirely up to you what you want to do, but I quite like the fact that this one will fold up and I can store it flat, because if you're like me, you've got loads of bags. Now in the pattern, I show you the drop-in lining. Now there I've tried to keep on top of my my 2 lines of stitching. This one I've done 2 lines of stitches next to each other. So if you're going to do 2 lines of stitches and you don't want to see the 2 lines, do one in that's almost the same colour and like hides, and then do your top stitch. But I don't mind the 2 lines of stitching. You can keep them quite close together. This one's got lining, inside zipper pocket, So it's called Sunday My Way, and it really, and a slip pocket here, and it really can be any way you want. Now these can have D-rings added to them, and then you can make a crossbody strap and wear it as a crossbody. But if not, they're there to help you have something to hold on to when you unzip and zip up a bag. So I hope you enjoy this pattern, and if you'd like to see how it's made, keep watching, and if you like my channel, then please like and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you, bye. Right, so we're going to start with the front slip pocket. I'm using OD coated fabric, which has got G700 on the back to give it more support. And as I'm going to use it as like a wash bag, I'm using PU. So it's a water resistant, use it in nappies, real nappies and things. So we're going to take it to the machine, and with our stitch on our construction length, we're going to stitch across and sew it with the seam allowance given in the pattern. And then we're going to flip it and we're going to stitch it. So I'm going to go up to top stitch, which for me is just over 3. And now we've done that, we are going to fold it in half and find the bottom. So that we get this right. We get a pair of scissors, put a little V. And it needs to be very small because it will become bigger. I'm going to take off one of our panels, whichever one you want to be the front panel. I'm going to fold it in half. Little snip. Now we're going to take our front pocket and we're going to line up our 2 V's. I've put one of my stick labels that I made on it just because I made them, so I thought, why not? Now we're just going to stitch down the sides and across the bottom, as close to the edge as you can get, because we are just basting them on. And that's your front slip pocket added on. So now we are going to do the handles. Now I'm using webbing for my handles. You can use fabric. I just like to use webbing. So I'll grab the webbing and I'll be right back. Right, so I've cut my webbing to the amount in the pattern. Now, no, I haven't. I've done centimetres, not inches. I'll be back. Okay, so now I've cut it to the correct 1 inches, not centimetres. The great thing about this bag is you can make it any way you want. That's why it's called Sunday My Way. So as you'd have seen in the start of this, I made a wash bag and I put the front zipper in like I'll do on the inside, and I left off the handles. But for the video, so you can see how it's all done, we are going to do the handles. So we're going to need a ruler. I'm starting to feel like it's one of those days where I shouldn't be let loose with a sewing machine. So let's hope we get something usable at the end of it. Right, so we are going to measure the distance in the pattern. Okay. That's not going to show. I wonder if this one will show. So you want to make sure that you use something that you can see. Nope, can't see that neither. Right, we'll just have to hope for the best. Where's my overlaid? All these lights. Where's my on button? Not that that's much better. There we go. Move you a bit. Right, so let's, right. Now we also want to measure down the amount in the pattern. Right on the other side, right. So I'm going to mark up. Now I like to draw the line right up, and then I come down from the top, and I'll do a line down. I just find it helps me. Now we're going to take our lining, our handle. Sorry, I have a feeling words are going to be hard today. I do apologise. It's been a stressful week. Kid's hamster died, and I'm trying to sort college out for one of my sons. Right, so when I look now where I drew the lines, I can draw. That's why I make the lines bigger going across, because I can then join these up. And I've lined up the edge of the webbing with the edge along here. We're going to take that to the machine and we are going to stitch up. Now I like to use a colour that gets hidden, so if I could be bothered, I'd change it out to do the light lilac on the webbing. I just find that when I go to sew along it, it doesn't, if you use a contrasting thread, then it's really noticeable, and sometimes it can look a bit naff. So I like to try and use a colour that is invisible as much as possible. Now we're going to come down from the top. Should have drawn the other, so I'll do this one and then I'll pop that one on. So making sure this is lined up with the edge, stitching along. And now, to make sure they match up, I'm going to take my line of stitches, draw another line here and here, and we are going to do the little squares to reinforce. And this is where, if you haven't used a contrasting colour, it becomes quite invisible, so you can't see what's been, you can't see what's already done. So you've got your little square on the back. Can't remember what I did now. I changed this. I do it. If I have to go backwards and forwards, I go backwards and forwards. Let's do it however. Right, so now that's the front one done, and we're going to do the back panel in exactly the same way. Can you see how, I rub the chalk off, you can't see the white so much. Sorry about that, that was my husband. No, what have I done with it? Oh, here it is. See, I really should not be left in charge of a sewing machine today. Right, so again, we're going to do the same as we just did. Hopefully this is in you can see I'm trying to find the best way to record videos so you guys can see the best, but my table is against a wall and I can't change that, so I'm at a bit of a loss. So we're lining up my line is here, you can't really see it, but we're lining up there. I love these pin clips, they come in so handy. We're lining up this one here, and we're doing that. So going to draw the line here, and as I've remembered this time, let's draw the line here. Try not to stick my head in it, so I apologise if I do. Right, now let's stitch this. So I'm going up to the top one, top line, and coming across, and I'm coming back down again. I mean, this one's not so much of a big deal because it's not going to carry a lot of weight. But if you've got something really heavy, you could do make sure you back stitch a few times across to make it even stronger. But drawing the X on helps reinforce. Turn my Wi-Fi on. And now that's your front and back panel done. Now we're on to the next step. Okay, so now we're going to do the internal zipper pocket. Now I used to do slightly different than what Rachel says in the pattern. I cut my zipper facing in whatever the lining fabric is. Rachel says to use like G700 fusible interfacing, but I'm so dopey that the few times I did it, I got it all wrong and ended up ironing the interfacing to my iron. So I use the fabric to do the zipper facing, although in the instructions it says to use interfacing. Now the other difference, and it's really nothing, in the patterns Rachel gives two measurements, one for the pockets. There's two measurements, and there's normally an inch, half an inch difference between them, so you've got a top and a bottom zipper pocket. Again, I'm so klutzy and forgetful that when I did that, I ended up my pockets being really short because I got them muddled up. So I cut both of them to the bigger size, and then when I've done the pocket, I trim off the extra, and that's how I do it to make sure I get it right. So we're going to take our zipper pocket lining, and we're going to place that right side up, and we're going to place our zip wrong side down. So we are creating the pocket for inside. So I'm using white PUL here, so that's the right side up, because if it was the wrong side it's shiny. I'm going to stitch that with the seam allowance given in the pattern. And then we're going to fold that over, pop that down, and we're going to top stitch along. We're going to stitch that flap down. So just make sure it's pulled out of the way. And then we're going to do this one with right sides up, wrong side down, and then we're going to stitch that with the seam allowance given in the pattern, making sure that we line the two pieces up together. And then I'm going to down. So when we put this in the bag and we fold it, we're going to have the inside of the fabric inside. I keep mine longer just because it keeps it out the way, and then I'll cut it in a minute. So now we're going to want to take our interior piece, a panel piece, one of our linings. Again, mine's really thin because it's PUL. So we are, sorry, getting in a pickle. Hopefully it's all still in shot. Right. Should we risk it for a biscuit? No, let's try this one. So we are going to measure down the amount given in the pattern. Now, when you're doing it, you've got the edges that curve off. So you want to line your ruler up with the middle and the middle here, between here, to make sure you're getting the correct length down. Now you're going to take your interfacing, and we are going to place that right side up. Now I'm second guessing myself galore. Grab a pen, and we are going to measure down the instructions in the pattern, and we are measuring on the white bit. Actually, that's not quite, I know what I've forgotten to do. See, I'm having one of those days, people. One of those days. So if by the end of it I've got a bag, you guys have got one as well. Tiny little V. And then fold this in half. And we're going to line up. So we're going to line up this fold line with this, and with the line that we drew, I can just see. And now we are going to measure down on the interfacing and draw a line. We're going to measure down again the amount in the pattern, and then from the middle, the pattern gives us a amount to come out. So I line up with the corner, with the center point there, draw a line, and then I'll line up so my machine's not in the way with that point there, point, and then draw that. Now we're going to take it to the machine and we are going to stitch along this line and the bottom line. I'm not doing either side because I find it's not needed. So I'm going to take it to the machine. I can just put a couple of clips just to help keep it steady. And now we're going to stitch, and we want to get as close to this point here as we can. And as close to this one. If you need to make your stitch length smaller, make your stitch length smaller. We're going to get as close as we can. That's it. Now we're going to grab our seam ripper, which is up here somewhere. Come on, where are you? Come on. Right, and we're going to start off enough of a hole so that we can and then we're going to make a V. We're going to go as close to those stitches as we can without cutting them. I'm going to pull that through. Now this is where you take it to the iron and you iron it. I'm just going to finger press. Just going to butterfly the seam. See, I've managed to put this in the wrong way around. So if I'd actually done this with interfacing, I'd be sticking my interfacing to my iron. So I'm going to just give that a finger press. I mean, you take it to the iron, give it an iron. I'm not. Right, now I'm going to put our zip in. Whichever way you want the zip to open, you need the zip that side. So if you want it to open left to right, you put your zip here on the left. If you want it to open right to left, you put it on your right. I use a small piece of double-sided tape. This is a 1/8 of an inch. Might even be a 1/4 of an inch, but I don't think it is. I don't know. No, more like an 1/8, I think. Yeah, I think it's an 8. Right, now if you watched any of my other videos, we'll see sometimes I can get the double-sided tape off easily, and sometimes, well, there's one, and sometimes I can't, and I have to stop the video, spend 5 minutes trying to get it off, and then come back when it's done. So, oh, we got one. We got 2. Wow. Right, so now we're going to place our panel on top, and the double-sided tape just helps it stick, so, and you can move it round. Now I try and line it up and make sure any of my stitching for my tape is not showing. Right, if you look here, you can see I slightly went over on one, well, I stitched down longer on one side than the other. So you see how this is nice and straight and this is a bit wonky. That will be because I didn't start and stop exactly where I should have. So I'm going to take this to the machine and I'm going to top stitch this. Now this might seem really stupid and really like no-brainer, but I'll point it out because I have done it wrong enough times myself. Make sure you have your pocket linings out, because I have sewn them and then had to unpick it. Right, now I'm going to turn, I'm going to come down, and you can see that then that covers in those little V bits that were poking out. They now can't get out. So when I get to here, I stop, lift up my foot, and I poke my zip back through. Be a bit more tricky if you've got big flashy zipper pulls and things. It can take a bit longer. And then, where's my scissors for? My zipper tape. These aren't them, but I don't ever use my posh ones for cutting zipper tape because that will soon mess them up. Plug them. Right, so now I'm going to take it and we're going to fold it down. Now you can see here I've got a difference. Now if you've cut and used it correctly, like Rachel's pattern says, I haven't even put that in straight, Claire, then you won't have to do this bit, but I do this because it's just easier for me and the way my brain works. Oh. Now we're going to take that to the machine and we are going to stitch all the way down and round. Now I tend to sew down one side then the other, but also wanting to make sure you've moved all your lining out of the way. Again, it might sound silly, but I have done that because, you know, I'm really clever sometimes. Right, stitch along here. Again, making sure I've moved all out of the way. There we go. And that is your inside pocket added. How great is that? And because of the way we did the pocket, it's inside fabric, not outside. We're going to pop that to the side and we're going to do the exterior panel. Right, I just want to point out before we start the exterior panel, because it's a dropping lining and the way Rachel does hers, the exterior is actually thinner than the interior. So you can actually see that there's a slight difference. So when you're cutting out the pattern, it isn't wrong, it is right. It's just the way Rachel does her pattern. Oh look, not quite enough. Oh, look at that. That was made for that one. Sneaky. Let's just... Why not? Whoa! Almost fell off my seat then. Because, you know, we can. I'm just going to stick a multicoloured oil slick zip on. Right, so we're going to take our exterior panels and we are going to put the straight edge to our zip. So we're putting straight edge to straight edge. So let's move the zip out of the way of there to start with. I'm going to sew with the seam allowance given in the pattern. Right. I'm coming up to the zip pull, so I'm just going to slide the zipper pull up, lift my foot up, ease it past. I don't want to go too far because I'll end up coming off. Then we're going to fold it over and we're going to top stitch up to top stitch length, making sure that we've folded the fabric well. Again, we take our exterior fabric, I'm going to place it right side up and right sides together. Now I like to line up my exterior fabric on my zip because my zip's slightly longer than the fabric. So I want to make sure it's together so that it's not one bit longer than the other. Let's stitch right down to construction then. A little bit further, stop, bring my foot up, that's it. And then back to construction length, top stitch length. panel done. So now we're going to take our lining. Now this is done ever so slightly different because, oh, somehow I think I forgot to cut that in. Good job, there's a line there. Right. So again, we're going to take our short edges, no, not short edges, straight edges, and we're going to place them on top of each other. Then we're going to grab our ruler and we are going to make, grab my smaller ruler. A mark. I'm going to make another mark. And we are just going to sew from that line to the outside and this line to the outside. Using the seam allowance in the pattern. I'm going to do the same here. Now this is where a bit of glue or double-sided tape comes in handy. Now this is a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I don't normally give out the seam allowances, but as this is a free pattern, you can get the seam allowance very easily. So because it's a 1/2 inch seam allowance, if you draw an inch line and then add, where's my tape? See, I've got gremlins and there's only me in here. Come on. Right. So if I add a little bit of tape along that edge on the inside of it. Right. Let's see if I can pull it up. Oh my goodness, 3 in a row. Right, so if we start in the middle, roughly, and we fold down to there, means you've got a 1/2 inch seam turned down. And it's easier to draw it, so if it's a 1/2 inch seam allowance, draw it at 1 inch. If it's a 1/4 inch seam allowance, draw the line at 1/2 inch. Just double whatever the seam is, and then it will give you, it's easier. So if I was to draw a line here that's 1/2 inch, I've got to try and fold along that line. But if I do 1 inch, I can always see that line. Bit more difficult because I'm fighting the other side. Again, make sure we put it on the inside. Oh. Talk about that. That was close. And again, if we fold it down, we've got a nice even, and it's easier to fold down to when you can see it, rather than trying to fold up a line that would be inside your fabric. Right. Now I'm going to put that to one side for now, and we are going to get our side and bottom panels. Right, so we've got our side and bottom panels. Now, oh, I know what I've forgotten. Right, okay, so I'm using my zipper. Quite big, those ones. We're mixing and matching hardware here. Hey, why not? Right, so we're going to make the zipper tabs. Now, if you were making them out of fabric, you will literally... Okay, so I'm used my webbing to make my zipper pull tabs. So I've just taken it and folded it in half, which is what you would do if you were using fabric. Now, just to bear in mind when you do it, here's my test one. This bit here can get quite thick, so you want to make sure whatever you're using doesn't get too thick, because it can be quite hard on that seam if your machine struggles. So we want to just make sure that we've got them the correct size, which they are. We're going to place the zipper pull on. Oh no, I know what we need. Sorry, brain is not working today. Right, it's going to take you to the machine, and we're going to get as close as we can to the D-ring. Right, I'm just going to pause the video and I'll be right back. I've got a bit of thread caught in the bottom of my machine. Okay, so I've just done that. Take them. When my machine does that, it means I've got a bit of thread caught in the making in the bobbin area. I forgot to melt the ends of these. So by melting the ends of these, it just prevents them from fraying and pulling out of your seam allowance. And the reason you stitch across the end here is it makes it harder for the ring pull to pull out. Now I've added the D-ring, so that if you want, you can add a long strap, a carry strap, or you could add what else could you add? Whatever you want. Maybe I should just stop talking. Right, so we're going to just baste those onto there. It's just to keep it in place whilst we sew the rest of the gusset. Right. Ooh. So we're going to take our side panels. No, that's my bottom panel. Take our side panels and we're going to place them right sides together with this in the middle. Now, there is two ways. So if you find it doesn't fit, it means you've got it on the wrong way. So now we're going to take this to the machine and sew it with the seam allowance stated in the pattern. And you might need your hump jumper because it's a little bit thick over zipper pull. I'm just gonna do that a few times to reinforce it. Take the middle, your bottom, we can cut those, it's already folded. I tend to cut my notches in because if I use pen, unless I'm using biro, but it's easy, I just find it's easier to cut my fabric, easier to notch it, because I did it once and I used an erasable pen and it erased so quickly that I didn't realise, and I lost all the marks, and oh, it was a nightmare. So I've got side, bottom, side. Just connect this to the side, to the top. Hump jumper. Just gonna and if you're wondering, my hump jumper is 2 pieces of vinyl, maybe 3 pieces of vinyl, and then I practice my edge coating on it, but it works quite well as a hump jumper. And I've also got a cork one, which was part of a strap that I cut off that I wasn't using. Right now we're going to pop our seams down that way, and we're just going to top stitch across the bottom, making sure that the zip is pointing down. Up to top stitch length. Same on this bit, making sure the inside is facing down. Very straight, Claire. And then what I like to do, because it just makes it easier, is I open up my seam on the bottom, because I find, and I'm sure Rachel has put it in the pattern, it distributes the bulk on the corner, so rather than it being really bulky like that, it just distributes it. So take it to my machine, and then I'm just going to top stitch it as close to that middle edge as I can. And then you can stop, do a couple of stitches, turn around and come down the other side. And not only is it a nice decorative bit, but it also means that can you see how nice and flat that lies? So it's a good way of keeping the seams flat for when you come to put the bag together. Down the other side. Right, so now we're going to do exactly the same with the inside. Where are you? Hello, wave on. Here we go. So this is our lining. Place right sides together. Did you see how they didn't fit then? That's how you know you've not got the right sides together. You've got your side panel the wrong way round. Bottom, side, bottom. Oh, hold on. It's right, just suddenly thought, did the seam allowance change? But it didn't, it's the same. Now we're back to here. Finger stuck to the... Right, now that's your lining done. Now we just want to find, you can, and it does, Rachel does say to top stitch these as well, but I'm not going to, as I'm using PUL and I don't want to put more holes in it than needed, because it's going to be a wash bag, wet bag sort of thing. That'll just help keep those down for a little bit. Okay, right, so just going to top stitch these bits down. So again, you're making sure that the underside is going down. You can see that this is facing down. Just helps it lie flat and you get a nice finish. We're almost done. Just the panels to add and then the drop-in lining. Right. Now let's get on to adding the lining. Sorry, don't mean lining, I mean side panels. So you want to find the middle, clip. I'm not using any fleece on mine because I've completely forgot to cut it out. So if you'd got fleece, then your fleece would be fused on, but I've completely forgotten the fleece, so hey ho, it's Sunday my way. So I'm just going to make mine without fleece, so it's not going to stand up and be as have as much structure, but that's fine by me. I've got the others with structure, so you can see the structure, the stiffness that the fleece adds. Right, so I haven't done the top of that one. Right, so this is the front. Now I always get this wrong, so if we manage to do it right, then that's a bonus. So if I was looking at the bag, I want it to open left to right, then I want this panel piece, I believe. But who knows? We'll see. Always confuses me. Right. So now I'm just going to flip that round. So we're putting right sides together. I always pin a bit at the top, pin a bit at the bottom, and then ease it round. You might need to start, but we might need to just put some little clips in because we're putting a straight line round a curved edge, and sometimes you need to just help encourage the fabric round. No, we don't need to this time. See, probably will this side because you know there's always one. And if you've pinned the top and the bottom, then you know how much of the fabric you've got to ease in round that part. My interface is coming unstuck from my exterior. Right, you can just see here there's a little bit that needs easing round. So if we grab our scissors and just about 1/8 of an inch, just put some clips in to help ease the fabric round. You see how you can then ease it round? Right, so now we're going to take that to the machine and we are going to stitch that with the seam allowance in the pattern. Oh look, my phone's come unthreaded. My sewing machine's come unthreaded. So remembering to start and stop the back stitch. I like to sew with the side panel up. And I'm just moving the fabric around underneath. So that hopefully I don't get more . Trying to make sure that I can't feel any lumps and bumps. out. Check that you've got your corners. Right. So now I'm going to just open up the zip so you've got enough room so you can get your hand in to unzip it. I like to keep the zip zipped up as much as I can because it's just, I like this, gives it a bit more structure. It's not quite so loose. Oh, my fabric's really coming away. Right, so I'm going to line top with top. Same top with top. This is quite giving, this fabric. It's not too thick. If you've got really thick fabric, then the clipping can come in quite handy. But this is quite, you can manipulate this quite well. And as I said, I've forgotten the fleece, but hey, we'll just pretend it's the way I'm making it. Right. Okay, let's do this side. And this is all about just easing it in, and if you don't make it all the way round, you've still got some, then undo and rejig. It's all about easing it round. Now we're going to give that a sew. Just need to help that bit lie flat. I'm just trying to make sure there's no puckers as we come around the corner. It's all about manoeuvring, feeling. It all comes with practice. Making sure you don't stitch over the handles. Yeah. So, this is where, having kept the zip, you can open it. There we go, that's your outside done. You can just say to cut your seam allowance down, but as my fabrics aren't bulky, I'm not going to, because they can just fold. If I do say so myself, I'd rather like that. That's looking rather good. Right, so now we're going to do exactly the same thing for the in lining fabric. I'm just checking it's not a different. So for the inside, you're using a slightly bigger seam allowance. And the reason you use a slightly bigger seam allowance is because it allows for a tighter fit inside the bag. So, got one external piece, one lining piece. Let's find the middle. Right, now then. So, this is a little bit more tricky because it's so floppy. But it's just trial and pin and pin and pin. So I'm just finding the middle. So I'm lining up the two. No, see, look, good job I double checked. I was lining it up with the bottom, not the top. I want to line up the two side panels, top of the side panels. See, we all make mistakes, and silly ones at that. Right. That's middle, 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 middle. Right, I'm just going to break my sewing machine. Don't want to do that. No, that's not going to work. Okay, start there. Right, take the paste off. So again, right sides to right sides. Don't need to worry about your pocket about the pocket being open, because we're not pulling through the pocket. It's a drop-in lining. Butterfly those open. almost got all excited then. Got to do this side. Butterfly that out. But it's not so much a problem because it's not very thick. Just going to stick a clip on there to keep that out of the seam allowance. So just keep going. Now we're going to sew this with a bigger seam allowance stated in the pattern. Just making sure that the fabric's all flat underneath and I can't feel any bumps. Oh, seam allowance. I really forgot about my seam allowance. Where did it change? Right here. Go. That's that one. Now we just add this one. We've got our clips again, right side together. I haven't interfaced this. It does say to interface it in the pattern, but I'm quite happy to have quite a nice floppy bag that will fold in on itself. I really like this. I really like this. Almost want it bigger. pardon me. Little few slips here. Right, that's it. Now we're going to sew this one. And there you have your inside done. Now you're going to take your outside, and you're going to take your inside. So that's my front, and I want my zipper pocket at the back. So what I do is I don't cut the bottom piece. I don't cut the bottom edge, because what I do is clip them together, and then same on this side, making sure it's the bottom. And then I'm just going to, on the side where I've got the smaller seam allowance, so the external side, I'm just going to sew along, and this just helps keep the bottom of the bag in the bag. And then I'm going to do the same on this side. And by doing it on this side, you're within your seam allowance on both of them. And then what I'm going to do is take, so when Rachel says about trimming the seam allowance, she means the corners here. You want to leave the top bit, because you're going to add the top to it. But this is when I turn it in the right way. I've realised I've done it the wrong way round. Just you wait, it's one of those days. And then the same on this side. So you've got your flap, your gusset, and then you've got your side bit. And you're matching up your two tops of your side panels. So this just helps keep it all nice and tight inside your bag. I bet you can't see. I bet I've done all that off camera. I do apologise if I have. So now again I'm going to sew from this side because it's the smaller seam allowance, so you know you've got enough. You're not going over onto your outside seams. And then same on this side. Now, when you turn your bag in the right way, right, so now, little bit's gone, you're going to want to bring your lining up to, I turn it inside out. In. So where you've top stitched, you've got a line of stitching. So I want to cover that, so I just go above that line of top stitching. I'm going to follow that all the way round. And this is where, if you don't want to see two lines of top stitching, then make sure your first one's done in a lighter colour so it's not as noticeable. So that's one side. So now again I'm just lining up with the line of, just above the line of stitches. So what I now do is I get my glue. Oh, sorry, I've had to move it because of where I've put the stand to film this. And then what I do is, starting to here, I just put a small bit of glue. I mean, you could do double-sided tape, it doesn't have to be glue. Put a little bit of glue, it's coming out, and then I just work back along, clip it, move it up to just keeping it within the seam allowance. My glue's running out. Just want a little bit so that when it comes to the top stitching, you don't have to worry about clips, and it's already anchored. Hopefully that's good enough. And by ensuring that you just go over the stitching from the top stitch, it means that you will catch this in when you stitch it. You're going to catch the lining as well, because you'll be the other side, you'll be this side of the top stitch or on the top stitch. I said it's another step, it's a bit long-winded, but I found it makes the best. I found it easier this way. Oh, I'm trying to glue my sleeve with my cardigan together. Right, let's do this side. My one that was really full, I left it upside down and the lid wasn't on properly, so when I came back the whole lot had turned into a nice clear blob of glue. Oh look, now there's a blob of glue. If you'd have been there earlier, we'd have been through this now. So now I'm going to leave that to dry for a few minutes and then I will be back. Right, so I have let it dry. It just helps keep it there without the clips. Thought I'd left some clips in there then. Right, now I'm going to sew, and this is easier because I haven't got thick fabric. If it was harder when I had thicker fabric, I don't have a free arm on mine, so I'm going down as close to the zip, as close to the bottom as I can get, and as close to the edge. Now I'm trying to sew on top of what I've already done, but if I can't do that, I'm just going slightly to the other side. But because it's not a high contrast colour, it doesn't matter so much. So if you've done one in one that matches and now you want to do a high contrast colour, you could do it that way. By doing it that way, you can't really overly tell the difference. And in the right way, and there you have a Sunday my way. What have I done? What have I done? I think I just need to give it a push out inside. There we go. Well done. You've done it. Fantastic.